Hi friends, this weekend I had a chance to play the Chrono Odyssey Closed Beta test, and boy do we have a lot to talk about. I think for the sake of brevity and clarity and kind of organization, I'll have 4 sections in the video. We're going to be going over combat, quality of life, some new player changes that they should probably make to the game, and then things that I liked. A little bit of positivity to round out the video. If you find this helpful or informative in any way, give me a like, let me know down in the comments if you had a chance to play what you thought about the game, and feel free to subscribe for kind of gaming content or reviews and stuff like this. Anyway, let's jump into the video. Combat in MMOs is arguably one of the most important parts of the game. It will inevitably be the nail in the coffin when it comes to whether the game makes it or dies, and it certainly has been the leading cause of many games throughout our history of MMOs falling to the wayside. One of the big problems with Chrono Odyssey's combat, at least right now in the beta, is that there's just a lot of really janky animations. Things need to be smoothed out. This extends from either animation attacks, the way mobs or characters move, to the actual physical animations themselves being incredibly fast, not having a good signal or tell, or just being weird and they don't look normal. These things need to be ironed out, and hopefully, past the beta phase they will be, but in its current state, it's not in a good place, and it's not going to be received well, especially if it goes live and goes to market with how it is right now in the game. Second thing I want to talk about is knockdowns. I'm not going to get too into PvP in this kind of review because I think the general audience is more concerned with PvE content. And if you can't get PvE content right, like, don't even start with PvP. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. So when it comes to PvE, when you get knocked down, you're stuck for about a second or two before you can recover or jump back up. This just needs to change, guys. There needs to be some sort of a knockdown recovery. You can put that knockdown recovery on a 15 or a 30-second cooldown, whatever you think the balance needs to be. It can use all of your stamina, whatever it needs to be, but there needs to be the agency or ability for a player to get out of a knockdown state. And if they get knocked out again, okay, sure, that's fine. They're not dodging beforehand. They maybe deserve to be punished in that regard, but there needs to be some way to recover from a knockdown. Stuns and, electrocutes, those can be different, sure, but they're just being knocked down. There's a lot of effects that knock down. You need to be able to get out of them. The next thing is just visibility in general, I think needs to be adjusted. For me, the camera, just the distance, I was very close to my character, especially when I lock onto a target. It feels like I'm a little bit too close and the camera's a little bit too low. Even being able to pull back 20% or pull up 15%. A good example is when you're on your mount and you kind of zoom out when you're on your mount. That camera angle feels great. It feels really good. I like that a lot. So being able to kind of get into that camera angle, that will be nice. I understand when you're free aiming with crossbows or bows and probably spells later on, that's a little bit different of a situation. I'm just talking in general, especially when you're locking on. I'd like to see that camera kind of pull back a little bit as a way to kind of get more spatial awareness. Dodge roll also needs to be updated a little bit. Right now, it's a bit too inconsistent when you're kind of passing through enemies or trying to dodge. Sometimes you get spit way far out on the opposite side of the enemy. Sometimes you get kind of thrown to a random side. And then also when you're kind of coming through the iframes position and reference, there probably needs to be more iframes in the actual dodge roll themselves just to account for if this is going to be a super ping heavy game. It's going to feel really bad if you don't have a couple extra iframes when you're committing all the stamina to make the dodge. And it's not you can just spam dodge rolls, okay? You only get a couple dodge rolls, so they are kind of a sparing resource, and some of these monsters do attack pretty frequently, and some of them have a high chain of attacks, especially if we're talking about multiple monsters attacking. So a couple extra iframes definitely is going to make your dodges feel more impactful and feel like you're being rewarded for actually dodging, and that's going to overall make combat feel better. And then one last thing, I mentioned this briefly, but hitboxes in particular, not just character hitboxes, but attack hitboxes need to be either delayed or shrunk just a touch. There are multiple instances where my character was either getting hit by an attack or an explosion or a spell effect well before the weapon had actually made contact with my character, or I was getting hit in the middle of some sort of a dodge animation or a dodge roll, or instances where those spell animations were clearly passing through my character but I wasn't getting hit. this kind of inconsistency just leads players to feel like they're getting gypped when it inevitably goes poorly for them. They're just going to say, this combat shit. And that's really sad. And so if we can clean that up, it'll be a lot better. Jumping on to our next section, let's go ahead and talk about quality of life. Now, across the entire game, there's actually there's some good things that I want to talk about, but with quality of life, the biggest and most annoying thing, I think, item pickup animation and the item interaction animation is awful right now. And honestly, I think it kind of needs to go. With just interacting with chests, interacting with, certain gatherables across the world only have like a particular angle in which you can interact with them, which leads you to kind of sometimes just get stuck in this weird limbo of walking towards an item without actually ever interacting with it. That stuff needs to be cleaned up. Item pickup animation feels really bad, especially when you're trying to pick up multiple items at once. You'll probably spam click your pickup key like 50 times before you've actually picked up like 4 or 5 items. Like it's no good. It takes so long to bend down and pick something up that definitely I would just remove it. It serves no purpose to the game. It doesn't improve gameplay in any way. And if it's not improving the gameplay, then like why is it there? Next thing up, HP bars and health bars in the UI. I like it. It's nice. It's clean. And it's non-intrusive. And I like when it kind of disappears to kind of give you that immersion. But if you're taking damage, that needs to be on screen. Next up, in terms of quality of life, momentum feels way overtuned at the moment. There's a couple instances where I would dismount off of my horse, and because of the elevation of the horse, and then where I was dismounting on, it would actually send me and just kind of propel me over the side of a cliff. And then I'd go flying off the side of a cliff, unable to redirect because I had this like extra momentum from kind of getting off the horse at a high level. It could be easily toned down. I don't think the game would miss it too much. Next up, bounties. Oh boy. Okay, with bounties, the system inherently I think is okay. It's fun to kind of look at the board and pick a target and then go after the target. But currently in its the iteration, you have to accept the bounty, exit out of the bounty board, open up your map, look to see where the bounty is. Then if it's not in an area that you are currently questing in or want to go explore, you have to abandon it and then go pick up another bounty and then repeat that process. This could all be circumvented and made infinitely more accessible and easy if you just let us view the location of the bounty from the bounty board before we accept the quest. I cannot even stress how annoying it is to go through 3 different bounties every time you hit a new bounty tier to see, okay, who's nearby, who's going to be in the area that I'm going to. This could also just be fixed, by the way, if you just let us take multiple bounties. That would work. Or you could see a target, see that it's marked in-game as a bounty target, and then if you kill it, you can collect its head and then bring it back and turn it in as a bounty, even though you didn't accept the bounty from outside. That would also work. As it is right now, though, just feels so clunky, and outside of like needing to get extra experience or gold, like I actually didn't even want to engage in it because it was an annoying system and I didn't want to be annoyed. Another quality of life thing, jumping into water. Guys, come on. Jumping into water. Everyone wants to jump in the water. It's in like every video game ever. I don't know why we're taking damage from jumping into water. Like that should probably be cleaned up. Next thing, stamina bar visibility. This game requires an intense amount of stamina management, especially when you're in the middle of fights. And I really, really hate on PC how small the stamina bar is and how it's really kind of hard to see. I think at the very minimum, the stamina bar should be bigger or at least more prominently displayed as one of the main bars. I care way less about my mana than I do about my stamina, so I would easily switch them if I had the option to. And arguably my stamina is kind of almost more important than my health. But that kind of covers up like general quality of life things that, just my initial feedbacks from the playtest. I want to take a minute to talk about new player experience and kind of pathing and general kind of updates like that. Now, I went through and I got to level 15, you know, cleared up, got some blue gear, did a lot of stuff, cleared all the bosses, got all my chrono abilities unlocked, and then I went back and made a new character and ran through the game just like it would be as a new player with all the experience that I had as a veteran player. And one of the things I noticed was it doesn't really do a good job. I think getting your first, chrono ability and kind of challenging that first boss, I think that experience needs to be reworked in how they approach it in order to make it a little bit smoother and make it easier to explain how the player should interact or engage with this. In my experience, when I went to go do it on my first playthrough, I just smashed my head against the wall until I beat him. And then I kind of went through the game that way. And I was like, cool, we're going to be here. We're going to take this challenge and we're going to beat it. And I died a couple times, more than a couple times, but I beat him. And I think most new players, they're either going to get frustrated or they're just going to quit. And then the game kind of has like an offboarding, like, oh yeah, these guys are hard. Come to me, and then, I'll tell you about the Citadel and all this kind of stuff. This seems like a really wasted opportunity to do something really cool. So I've kind of laid out a new path, a new kind of new player experience, and I think this would be a much smoother and a much more like cohesive, streamlined, get the player in, show them the fight, introduce them to more systems, and then let them go and make their choices. So after clearing the beach and arriving at Dawn Slope, you've got to the town. You can still have the player investigate the Chrono Gate. Now, at this point, once you talk to the general, you talk to the person in the house, they'll say, go to the go investigate the cave, right? Go investigate the cave. But it also gives you a quest to go craft a weapon. Get rid of that craft the weapon quest for now. We're going to save it for later. Have the player go to the cave, go check out the cave. They go into the cave, they go into the Chrono Gate, they get dumpstered by the boss. Great. Everything's fine here. But after their first death, you kick them out of the Chrono Gate. And then you have Velia say, hey, those guys are really hard. Come meet me in the Citadel. How do you get to the Citadel? Same kind of a situation. Follow the light. I'll lead you to somewhere where you can teleport to the Citadel. Then, once they get to the Citadel, Velia can explain how these bosses are benchmarks or challenge fights, or these are difficult encounters where you can gain powerful abilities from beating them, but you might need to improve your gear or might need to increase your power level. And then, once she's done telling you all of this, instead of just letting you loose in the Citadel where you wander around looking for a Chrono Gate to enter, she sends you back to the settlement. Now we introduce the weapon crafting quest. And instead of just giving the player all of the materials to craft a weapon, give them tools. And once you give them the tools, tell them, go outside of town. It's like 5 feet outside of town. This is not a big ask. Farm an iron node, farm a tree, cut down some branches, and then come back. Then you reward them for going out and gathering with all the materials needed to craft a weapon, and then you do the exact same thing with armor. Give them tools, give them a knife, tell them go out, kill a monster, have them skin it or butcher it, bring it back, then give them the materials needed to craft their first piece of gear. This will much easier lay the pathway for how players go out and craft their gear. In my playthrough, I enjoy life skilling, so I crafted pretty much all of my gear before I went and did anything, which by the time I was done crafting and gathering and crafting and gathering and all that kind of good stuff, I was like level 10 or 11 or something like that. And then I went back and steamrolled all of the bosses. They were like they were 1 or 2 shots. Either outside of like something gimmicky that killed me, where I was done in 2 shots. None of them took more than 2 attempts past the first one, which was really difficult. So, and I was stomping on everything since then. So let the players teach them how to play the game. There's a lot going on. There's lots of different systems that they need to interact with. So instead, let them go fight the boss, get destroyed, and then say like, okay, you're not really ready for this. Here's how you gather materials, here's how you craft materials, and then let them make the choice whether they want to then go craft the rest of their gear, go straight back to the boss fight, or now that they're in town, interact with some of the different quests in town to maybe level up. It gives them, it just is so much more smooth experience. I think players will enjoy it much more. And I've already submitted this feedback to them, and I sincerely hope that they take it. And then for the last part of the video, I just want to talk about some good things because I have about 10 hours in the game. I would say that, you know, there were definitely frustrations, but my experience overall is not negative. It's positive and optimistic, although, you know, a lot of my industry experience leads me to be more negative. I think overall my experiences are positive. One of the main things, the first things that it's a really stupid note, and I hate that I have it on the list, but it is on the list, and it's just freedom of movement. One of the first things I did in the game was just go climb a mountain because I like doing stupid shit like that. And I was like, dude, I want to see if I can climb the mountain. And guess what? I did climb the mountain. It was awesome. And it didn't get me anything, but I was able to do it. And having the ability to just go out and do random stuff like that is so important because it lets you feel like you're free to explore the world as opposed to being boxed into this linear, just straight go do these couple things. It gives you a sense of freedom in the game, and I think that is kind of an invaluable experience, and it's what made me fall in love to the MMO genre. Is there's just this open world where you can go out and do stuff. Next thing, there's stuff everywhere to interact with. There are gatherables literally all over the place. Even when you go into like enemy camps, there's barrels, there's boxes that you can break and you can loot stuff from, and you know that makes the world feel alive. You can go up to tables in town that have stuff on the table and interact with the table, and you can get stuff from the table. That's really cool. I like that that's there, and I think that kind of, you know, even just the boxes all around town that you can loot for extra little materials, these little things, they reward players for being in the world that they're exploring, as opposed to just staring at the quest log, staring at the mini-map, and staring at your cooldowns. It actually lets you, you know, use your eyes to find things that's going on. Next up, combat flexibility. One thing here, this is something that kind of happened, and it was an experience that I initially wasn't thinking of, and I wasn't gonna think, okay, maybe this is gonna happen, but I saw one of my abilities as I was fighting some mobs start piercing enemies. So I grabbed, you know, as you would do, I grabbed like 10 or 15 enemies, pulled them into one giant AoE pole just by kind of running circles, and sure enough, it pierced through all of them, which is great. I love that. Is it more efficient to maybe kill each mob or kill one or two mobs at a time, as opposed to like gathering up all of them all at once? Maybe, but being able to do that and gather up a whole bunch of mobs and then kill them all in one go, it feels really good, and most importantly, it's fun, and that's good. We want to be able to do things that are fun in the game. That's ultimately what's going to be the bread and butter of why people will continue to play, is being able to, you know, do stuff like that. Solo dungeons were cool. They were frustrating and annoying because you were falling, but ultimately, you know, that's my fault because I'm falling. So I like that. They were good. Fights were difficult. I think fights being difficult is very good. I would say that maybe having like 4 or 5, you know, moving combos, like moving attack combos that kind of chase you down and deal massive damage when you can only realistically dodge like 1 or 2 of them. That's not great and maybe needs a little bit of balance, but I do like the direction that it's going, and I think fights should stay difficult. Other than that, crafting my gear, it really felt rewarding. I crafted a full set of green gear, and it was better than anything I looted or anything that I could use until I turned level 15, and I was pretty much dumpstering everything, so that was all great. And then for like honorable mentions and stuff, just as we kind of wrap up the video here and kind of like summarize the whole experience, I had a good time. It was fun. I enjoyed myself. I don't necessarily think that the game is in a great spot right now because there's a lot of stuff that needs to get ironed out, and I don't know if all of those things are going to be able to be done by the end of this year, especially when it comes to things like hitbox and iframes. There's a lot of core systems that need to kind of be updated, but you know, if it doesn't break the game to remove things like the unneeded pickup animation or the unneeded chest interaction animation where you can just open up a chest, then maybe the game will actually be in a really good spot. This Chrono Odyssey certainly has the ability to be a game that could be fun and can be entertaining and engaging. After my first hour, I wasn't sure if I wanted to play again, which isn't a good, not like that kind of leads to that new player experience not being as smooth as I think it could be. But then after, I came back and I spent another 8 hours in the game playing and leveling up and gathering, and I enjoyed it. And I think if I, knew it wasn't ending tomorrow, I'd still be playing today, which definitely, lends to it has potential, but this stuff needs to get ironed out. And, it is a beta. I don't think it's necessarily worth mentioning, although I will say it. There's stuff like the lighting that needs to be fixed, obvious glitches, like, your hair disappearing. These things are obvious. We reported them. I think they'll hopefully get fixed, but it's those rough edges. Those rough edges, though, shouldn't be the focus. That's not what makes or breaks the game, okay? Skyrim has lots of bugs. There's lots of jank. The weird bugs or the glitches. Now, if you're getting seizures from the lighting spazzing, that's probably something to look at. But outside of that, like the weird climbing up the hills, yeah, it's goofy and it's not really like smooth or looks good. But at the end of the day, you're not playing a game to climb rocks and climb mountains. You're playing a game to have combat, to fight mobs, to craft gear, to explore dungeons, and there's stuff. There is a skeleton of this game that could definitely perform very, very well, but right now it just needs a little bit more polishing and a little bit more smoothing out. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. I will be keeping my eye on the game and kind of keep you updated with any news that I hear, or certainly come next beta, we will check it out. I'll dive in and see if anything's changed, and when the game releases, I'll be here to let you know what they fixed and what they didn't. So I appreciate you watching the video. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Please remember to like and subscribe, help support me out, and let me know your feedback. Was there anything that you saw? Let me know in the comments. I love getting a good conversation. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.